Hello everyone and welcome to my video where I'm going to show you what my art process looks like and how I usually go from an idea to a finished piece of artwork. So let's dive right in. In the previous video, I went through a challenge that I set for myself, and these are the results of that challenge. They are all ideas that I just brain dumped onto paper. So this is basically where it all starts for me. And these organic swirls with some colored spaces were inspired by Olafur Eliasson, whom I saw in an episode of a documentary series on Netflix called Abstract. And in his episode, he talked about how his dad told him to make some swirls on a piece of paper and then add color to the blank spaces. So that's basically where I started with this challenge as well, mainly to start a challenge by getting loose and getting into the flow, but also to see what kind of ideas or other ideas that this could develop into. So this is basically where it all started for me. And then I further developed this into mixing it with some geometrical shapes to kind of mix the organic shapes with some geometrical shapes because I find that combination quite interesting. And if you want a more in-depth explanation of these ideas and how they developed or how I developed them, I recommend that you watch the video dedicated to the challenge, which I will link in the top right corner. But anyway, what I realized about this challenge was that I really liked the mix of organic shapes with the geometrical shapes. It started with triangles and then developed into, well, I did some circles as well. And then it developed into these rhombus shapes, which I also call diamonds. And so when I was done with this challenge, that's what I wanted to explore more of in my sketchbooks, and that's exactly what I did. So let's look at my sketchbook. So this is my sketchbook where I explore and develop my ideas before I do anything serious with them. So my sketchbook is not the kind of sketchbook you usually see everywhere on the internet nowadays. My sketchbook is not about creating finished pieces of art. It's a place where I can play without any rules, without any expectations. It's just a place where I can explore everything that piques my interest. So what I did in my sketchbook was that I wanted to continue exploring the mix between straight and curved lines. Here I just started with some organic lines, but that developed into testing out some organic lines mixed with some more geometrical lines, or geometric and organic shapes. So I made these two pieces, which are fine, but they're not really anything that interests me about them, even though there is a good mix of the geometric and the organic. So instead I started thinking about other shapes that I could use and created these two pieces with this compass star or whatever it's called. Again, they are okay, but there wasn't anything that really interested me about them. So I moved back to what I found interesting in the pieces I made in the challenge, which were triangles and diamonds. So I made some triangles first, which were okay, but there wasn't really anything that stood out to me as something that I would want to use in my actual art. So I continued to explore, this time with the diamonds. For some reason, I just find the diamond shape to be very appealing. I'm not quite sure why, but it piqued my interest, so I wanted to further explore that. And then I created these two, which I really like. I love the complementary color combination of blue and orange, and the more purple or violet with yellow. And I love the crisp lines, which are very different from the uneven triangles I showed you before, and that's because I obviously used ruler for this, since I can't draw a straight line to save my life. And those crisp lines together with the organic shapes really appealed to me. And as someone who wants to continue to develop my ideas, I started thinking about other types of organic shapes that I could incorporate with these types of diamonds that I really enjoyed making. And that's where the flowers came in, which is something I experimented with and developed a lot here in my sketchbook. I will just run through these quite quickly to give you an overview of how my ideas develop. So all of them have the diamond shapes and flowers in common, but they differ in how I sort of created them. So I started off exploring the shapes the way I had done with the organic swirls as well. So each shape, each piece, or each space got its own color. And as you can see here, I focused on the flower being blue while the background is pink and purplish. And then this one I choose to alternate between a yellow and orange combination and a pink and purplish combination, depending on which diamond shape it was. After that, I wanted to do something different and decided to test out what it would look like if I used pro markers instead of just colored pencils. So I made this one, which is all made with metallic pro markers, but I stuck with the rule or execution of giving each space its own color. And I did the same thing with this one, which is made with neon pro markers. I wouldn't say that any of them did anything for me, even though I love the metallic markers, but I still wanted to try and mix them to see what happened, which is the whole reason I have a sketchbook in the first place. Again, this didn't really do anything for me, so I decided to try and mix the metallic markers with colored pencils instead. I kind of like the combination, but I'm not sure I will make this into an actual piece of art. And then I decided to see what it would look like to mix the neon pro markers with the colored pencils, which was also quite interesting. But again, I'm not sure I will use this mix of media in an actual art piece. This piece here was probably just me trying out what it will look like if I switch places between the media, meaning that I used the colored pencils on the flowers instead to make them pop, and the metallic pro markers on the diamonds in the background. But again, I wasn't sure about it, so I just moved on. And that's when I started to put the flowers on top of the diamonds rather than letting them cut through the flowers. And the reason I did that was because I wanted the flowers to pop more. I wanted them to be more prominent rather than the somewhat messiness of the previous sketches that had them kind of blend more into the diamonds rather than stand out. So each section of the flower still had its own color that I alternated between, while each of the diamonds in the background had its own color. And so I explored that first with the neon background and then the metallic background. And I must say that I like this more than I liked the ones before. And I think that's because you can clearly see the flowers in front of the diamonds. I'm still not sure I will use this combination of media in an actual art piece, but at least I now know what it would look like to do this. So what I found interesting about these two pieces though is that even though the flowers are more prominent because they are in front of the diamonds, I felt like it was a bit flat, a bit one-dimensional. And that's when I came up with the idea of putting some diamonds in front of the flowers while others stayed behind the flowers, which then created a lot more depth. And I really like that and continue to explore that in different ways. So I made the diamonds in different shapes, and depending on what the flower looked like, even though they are all magnolias because I love magnolias, depending on what the magnolias look like, the diamonds that were in front or behind of the flowers were different every time, and I really love that variety. Once again, I tested it out with the metallic pro marker, but once again, I'm not sure about using this combination in any finished art pieces. And then the last stage of the development of this kind of idea here in my sketchbook was to make a more realistic looking flower. I did try out to make these organic shapes, organic swirls over the flowers as well, just to see what it would look like. And even though I like this one, I don't think that's an idea I'm going to make into any art pieces, at least not right now. So let's go back to these ideas with the diamonds and flowers, because these are what I've created finished drawings from, and I will show you some of them right now. So here I have some different examples of the different drawings I've made from the ideas that I started in the challenge and then developed in my sketchbook. All of them include the things I like most about the ideas that I explored in my sketchbook. So they all have flowers. diamond shapes and depth as the flowers kind of weave to the front and back of the diamond shapes. Many of them include my favorite colors, which are blue and purple, and I often use a complementary color combination, which means that I often use orange with blue and yellow with purple. I have also developed this idea further by incorporating different flowers into these drawings. Even though I love magnolias and could draw them all day, every day, I wanted to add some other flowers that represent or symbolize what I wanted this collection of pieces to be about. And that's all about hope, because that's something I've needed a lot myself over the course of the past year. I've been going through a lot emotionally and mentally since my dad passed away last year, and I've been needing some hope in my life. And so I thought this was such a fitting theme to go with. And flowers have a lot of symbolism to them, so I thought it was really fitting that I'm drawing something I love, which is flowers, as well as the interesting mix between the geometric shapes and the organic shapes. And mixing what I love to draw with a deeper meaning, which is the theme of hope, just spoke to me. And so I've made pieces with forget-me-nots. I have some lotus flowers and some irises, which are also really beautiful flowers. I've also made some with different lilies. I really like this one and this one as well. And I have a lot of magnolias too, not so much because they symbolize hope, because I've only found that they symbolize other things like strength and luck. But here in Sweden, they bloom at the beginning of the spring, when the light is slowly coming back to us. And to me, spring represents hope, because it's the time of the year when we finally get to come out of the past 6 months of darkness. So in a way, they represent hope for me. But anyway, some of the flowers in the drawings are more realistic than the others, and I've created some of them with only one color for each leaf and petal, while I've made others with several different colors on each leaf to create depth, shadow, highlights, and things like that. I wouldn't say that I prefer one over the other. I feel like both of these options have a place in this collection of drawings, and so I'm going to keep doing it that way. So this is an example of where I have one color for each petal, and this one as well, which is different from this one where I have several orange shades to create a more realistic looking flower, so to speak. So this is basically my process from an idea in a challenge or a brainstorming session into developing the idea in my sketchbook to a finished drawing or even a whole collection. So now you might be wondering what I'm going to do with these drawings. Well, I'm currently still working on this collection. My aim is to have at least 25 of them that I really like, and then I will start offering them as prints. When that will happen and what that will look like is not something I've decided on yet. However, if you want to be the first to know when the prints will be available, then I suggest that you sign up to my email list, and you can find that link in the description box below. Anyway, I hope this video has been interesting, and if you liked it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos from me. Until next time, happy creating!